I haven't felt inspired to do a podcast interview in a couple months. That is until last week. But before I continue, could you please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment if you can, and even consider supporting me monthly with $5? Also, my memoir is finally out. You can see reviews on Amazon and also purchase it at bookshop.org. Go to my website, deborahlukovich.com for links, or just go buy it. Thanks. I think you'll enjoy it. So, anyway, when I was scrolling through Facebook and came upon one of my misfit friends' posts sharing her three-part essay series on ecopsychology, neurodivergence, and the future of intelligence, that was it. My mind and soul lit up. We hopped on a quick call and we had to stop ourselves so we could save the fireworks of exploring the topic for you. As you know, there's a lot of dismantling happening right now. It's not pleasant and a lot of people are suffering, but there's a design underneath the madness and the suffering. Many people, like today's guest, are thinking, philosophizing, imagining, relating, expressing, all driven by allowing what desperately wants to be unleashed from the collective unconscious. If you think we're ever going back to what we had, you'll have to release that expectation, or you'll possibly go mad or be overtaken by anxiety. Instead, be curious and follow thinkers and imaginers like my guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Sher Griffin. Sher, who holds a master's degree, is an autistic, neuroqueer writer, educator, and systems thinker whose work centers the intersection of trauma, autism, and ecological belonging. You'll learn what that is. She's the creator of the cognitive ecology model and author of Cognitive Ecology, Mapping Your Mind for Self-Understanding. Cher holds a master's in transformative social change with an emphasis on peace and justice studies and is currently pursuing a Ph.D., of course she is, in transformative social change at Saybrook University. Through her Substack publication, The Compassion Collective, and embodied spaces to be real and unmasked, Cher invites others into collective practices of self-recognition and systemic transformation. I suspect what we're going to discuss will be new for you, so I'm excited for our conversation to make these concepts understandable. So you can be as excited as me about what is taking form in the background, beneath the surface, and on the margins of the craziness. So let's get started. Hi, Cher. How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you, Deborah?
I'm good. I'm excited to have a chat with my fellow misfit.
Me too. This is gonna
Another
be fun.
one,
Yeah, this is
our
gonna be
third.
fun.
So let's just like start light because we're really going places today. I mean, you're deep in it, but most people will have never heard of some of this stuff, but my audience is going to love it.
Sweet. And it's fun. It's great to break it down. Take the big picture and break it into the pieces, and it's good practice for me too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So, first question, just how are you doing? It's Friday. How was your week? Anything interesting happened this week?
oh, interesting. Well, I mean, I have a kind of a story. It's a funny one.
All right.
It's a good
Oh, we like
icebreaker.
funny stories.
It's a good icebreaker. Yeah. So about 3 weeks ago, I had my wallet stolen from my yoga studio, which was really disappointing and kind of,
Yeah.
like it's kind of a violation, you know.
Yeah.
And I had to go through the whole process, get all the cards replaced and new IDs and all the things. It was a big pain in the butt. And then so Monday, I go to my yoga class, and I've been diligent about this. I go to the gym. Do not just put my purse in the cubby. I stick it in the locked locker, and I do the thing and make sure it's all there. So I do that, and I go to my yoga class, and I'm coming out, like, whoo, and go to open the locker, put the code in, open, no bag. Yeah. So in my autistic fashion, I march myself up to the front desk in the middle of a kind of a mini meltdown, kind of having a panic
Yeah.
attack. And they are awesome. I love the people at my gym, and they're just amazing. Like super calm. Like, oh yeah, we've seen this before. And I'm like, why aren't you as upset as I am? And they're like, no, we got this. And then so we go back into the locker room. The woman's got the master key, and she's like, "We're just going to open every single locker." Okay, this locker room's got hundreds of lockers, and I'm
Oh my
like, "No,
gosh.
I put it in that locker. It was that locker." And so we go, and I show her, and she goes, "Okay, well, let's just start." She goes up to the next locker, opens it up. There's the bag.
What?
Yes, that was a very ADHD moment where yes. And then I got a big hug because I was pretty distraught. Like this was like meltdown material. And I got a big hug from
Oh,
the person who found the bag. And then I came back up front and, had to pretty much apologize, hold myself
yeah.
accountable to
Oh
the
my
entire front
God.
office area. Like, yeah, that was the ADHD brain right there. I'm really sorry.
Oh,
And then the woman at the front desk, she's so sweet. She was the one who helped me the previous time too, so she kind of knew what was going on. She knew I have a couple little, things going on there.
yeah.
And she goes, you're just going to go to Target right after this. And typically, somebody talking to me in this kind of paternalistic way does not land, but it landed for with this woman. She said, "You're going to go to Target after this, and you're going to buy those tags that your phone finds, and you're going to stick it in your bag, and this is never going to happen to you again."
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing.
I was like, that is what I'm going to go do right now. And that is what I did. But
Oh.
anyways,
I
good
know
funny
what you
story.
mean, though. I mean, the first devastation is, oh, not again. Like, Hermes, what are you doing? You're torturing me. But then
Well,
the
it's like,
second devastation is the humiliation that you effed up.
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's a huge humiliation. And you're like, how did that occur? How
Yeah.
did I just repeat that?
And one of my complexes is like, did I do something wrong? I don't like doing, I don't like effing up. Like, it's
Yeah.
really like hard. Like, I can get myself through it, but it's like, did I do something wrong? Did I do something wrong? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
well, thanks for sharing
Yeah. It's a
and
good
sharing
one.
such a humble story. Lots of people can relate. So, all right. So now let's dig in. So, in my intro, I really just mentioned a couple of things the intersection of ecopsychology, neurodivergence, and intelligence, and then this thing that you are framing called the cognitive ecology model. That's all my listeners know so far. So, I thought, like, I was emailing you and saying, for some reason, I'm really preoccupied with words right
Oh,
now
that's great.
because I'm finding that, like, over time, you don't question the assumptions, right? Like, you just get
Mhm.
used to using a word and then you're like, oh, but is that the right word to use? So I'm just really fascinated by words right now. And I think it is, and I found an eco psychology book on my
Oh,
bookshelf when I
sweet.
was meditating. So I thought you could just start by defining, what even is ecology and then eco psychology and neurodivergence. And other than the movie Divergent, which I loved, people, they have a little bit knowledge, but very much. And then intelligence. Like, what the heck is it even is intelligence? And then maybe talk about, like, what is it that you mean by
Hmm.
crossroads and intersection of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this because it is something that I run into often because my work is so hmm, it's paradigm shifting really and because of that, and there's a lot of paradigm shifting happening. It's
Yeah.
not just me doing this work, but
Right.
but because of that, we have these kind of uh, assumptive understandings of words, and then when they're used in a different frame or a different context, we hold on to that, and then it throws people off. So I
Hmm.
think it's great to kind of like define the frame
Yeah.
first. So I'll give you definitions how I
Hmm.
define these
Yeah.
within the work that I'm doing. So
Hmm.
ecology is simply the study of relationships.
Okay.
So who depends on whom, what grows out of what, nothing stands alone.
Okay.
That's an ecology.
Beautiful.
Psychology in this context then is the study, which I think you'll agree with me here too, but I think most people will, but the study of our patterns of attention, meaning making, memory, emotion, and behavior. And we'll talk a little bit about that when I talk about neurodivergence, because there's some misunderstandings of how we've understood
Hmm.
autism, ADHD, these kind of
Yeah.
intrinsic neurodivergence in our society because of a medical model. So we're going to pop out of the medical model and we're
Okay.
going to understand it a little bit differently. So then eco psychology looks at what happens when the relationships that sustain life, including the relationships inside our own minds, become
Mm.
distorted or disconnected.
Mm.
So when the mind body, right? That's a
Hmm.
lot of us talk about it that way, but we're talking mind and earth gets disconnected. What
Okay.
happens? And then, so neurodivergence in this context is the reminder that cognition itself is diverse, right? So
Hmm.
we are not as neurodivergent people pathologies, right? We're not a deficit human. There is no normal baseline. That is a misconception, right? And so different nervous systems perceive different patterns, right? That's pretty fundamental. And so neurodivergent perception isn't a deficit, it's an extra access points into the ecology of relationships.
Ooh,
So into those patterns, it's a different understanding of those patterns of perception, which then brings us back to psychology, how we've really understood neurodivergence. And this is kind of in a nutshell, like there's more to it than this, but how we've understood autism, I'm going to use that one specifically, though giftedness and ADHD and a lot of these other
mhm.
neurodivergencies kind of intersect with this, um, uh, neurologically and biologically, but specifically the psychology of autism, the way that we've understood it as a deficit to a typical, to a norm, to a way of being in the world that is the best, right? And so when we've done that, what we've done with in psychology is we've looked at autistic people solely through a behavioral lens, which is really done a disservice. It's
Yeah,
very much harmed
yeah.
autistic humans throughout history. And so now, what neurodivergence, what people in this movement are starting to recognize, and the different ways we're understanding the complexity of being an autistic human in the world is through number one, our own lived experience. So, right, that's the big shift in the paradigm. Is it's autistic humans researching autistic humans, right? That's
Yeah.
important. It's the cognition of autism, which is a perceptual difference, that's actually doing the research with other autistic humans or neurodivergent humans. And
Mm.
so that's where the meaning making, the patterns of attention, the memory, the emotion come into play, which is all if our external perceptions are different, our internal perceptions
Oh
are
my
different
God.
as well.
Well,
So,
and just to relate to that, and maybe because of my own neurodivergence, right? So I found the book Indigo Children a
mhm.
long time ago because I was trying to understand. I understood my son. He was fine for me, but I was trying to understand the school system's reaction to him. And he
Mm.
actually wasn't he had a full evaluation and wasn't actually diagnosed as anything. He
Mhm.
just had those indigo traits of like a natural rebelliousness, a connection with tree frogs, with nature, that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
this reminds me because even before I found depth psychology, I thought about, or maybe it was when I was studying depth psychology, I thought about autism. And my understanding at the time was that autistic people have a really intense connection with their internal world. Well, I'm an
Mhm.
introverted intuitive. So that just seemed obvious to me to the extent that it's so dramatic that it's very difficult for like the outside world is probably feels hostile to them or
Yeah.
whatever, right? And so for me, I was like, based on the reading of Indigo Children, it was okay, these children are showing up with traits. Who's to say that those aren't evolutionary traits that are
Mhm.
going to be needed? So as
Mhm.
instead of looking at it as you aren't the norm, and
Mhm.
norm doesn't mean good. I have to remind people normal right now is bad. It's dysfunctional, right? So, and
Yeah.
then the other thing it reminds me of, so that's how I thought about it and how I have, encouraged moms of, boys who are just feeling suffering right now is, get invited. I think the deeper meaning of autism showing up is remember Carl Jung said the final frontier is not space or the ocean, it's the inner world. So
Yeah.
they are like
Yeah.
mirroring back to us. We not only need to get invited into their inner world, your inner world, but that we need to go inside ourselves. And then the last thing I want
Mhm.
to say is, there's so much meaning in my time at Playworks. And Playworks is an organization where they use evidence based sort of play to strengthen community on the playground.
Mhm.
And so instead of and the special ed teachers were always the most excited about Playworks because instead of teaching autistic children to fit in, it was the opposite. It was how do we create community and make it normal that we find that
Mhm.
we adapt
Yeah.
to autistic
Yeah.
children or special needs children or whatever it was
Mhm.
because those children show up to increase our sense of love. That
Hmm.
is why they're here, is so that we love them.
All children do. That
Yes.
is that is why children are
Right.
part and are equal to us in society. And we don't look at a lot of systems and structures don't look at children as having an
No,
equal basis in society. And
rarely.
it's just really sad. But I mean, you just defined what my work is really about, and it's about we aren't looking to fix people, we are looking to fix systems. The
Yes.
systems people should be we shouldn't have to change ourselves to fit into a system. And I think me and you both have had experiences in workplaces and
Yeah.
those kinds of structures where they wanted to mold us into something that just was not possible, right?
Well,
And
share. Well, before that, maybe I'm guessing this is your experience too, because you're brilliant. You got a big brain. In the beginning, they love you.
yes.
They're like, oh my God, we want what you have. And then
Yes.
over time, and it's really a blow to your ego.
Well,
Like,
it's a horrible blow to your ego. I mean,
it's so yucky. It's just
it's just
yucky.
yucky. It is. It really is. It really is
We
because
love you. You're exceeding expectations. And then after a while, when I really start coming
that's
out as
too
me,
much. Don't exceed
yes,
too many expectations.
exactly. That's it.
Like what? And I think it is partially is that it's their own insecurities.
Yeah.
And not that
Yeah, I know.
it just that big, big people
Yeah.
with big insight and big
Intensity.
ideas and
Yeah. Yeah.
intensity being one of the big ones, can become for some too much. And they don't know how to create their
Yeah.
own boundaries. They don't know how to do that. They've only been taught through coercive dynamics and
Yeah.
compliance based and all these kinds of things. So they don't know how to interact with us. And
Yeah.
then it's like a double labor issue. That's what I call this, a double labor issue
And we
where
can be exhausting.
yeah. Well, I'm holding my own self, right? I'm regulating as
Yeah.
much as I can to the other person that
Yeah.
relationality, the other person in the room, because I'm reading every single micro
Right.
expression because that's my perception.
Right.
And then I'm also having to regulate them, like because they don't know how to do it yet, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge. So
Oh, okay. And
it's
that's when you talk about burnout. Okay. So I think so. We've gotten to ecopsychology, neurodivergence. So what do you mean by intelligence then?
yeah. This is a tough one because this
Yeah.
conversation always goes in so many different directions
Yeah.
on especially when we start talking about AI and intelligence. Like I've
Yeah.
had some interesting conversations there. But for me, this is how I define intelligence. It's not a measure of correctness, but a way of sensing patterns, responding to complexity, and staying in relationship.
Ooh.
So that one's I think, with
Mhm.
all my education and trauma and my own healing through that process, that one's the hardest is staying in the relationship.
You're really talking about, I mean, you're really touching on emotional intelligence and you're also prioritizing relationship. You're
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing connection because
Hmm.
it is, and I love how, I don't know, this with James Hillman, he's just coming to mind right now, right? So we've had 100 years of psychotherapy. The world is getting worse. The myth of analysis, all of that. And I love how he is so hard on the institution of
Hmm.
psychotherapy that it has like a hero complex and it's very one-sided masculine and I love how
Yeah.
he talks about the therapy room should be a cell of revolution, that
Yes.
you're not the problem as the personal, that the therapy should be equipping you and maybe grounding you. This is my words, grounding you to go out and realize and to be strong enough to see the truth of the situation and to not let our
Hmm.
systems belittle you because, you know, patriarchal systems rely on power and control and fear and dissatisfaction and all of that, right? So,
And that is the work. That's
yeah.
the work, Deborah,
Yeah.
right? Like it is. That's the work. And that's like ultimately cognitive ecology. We're not going to get into that in this, but I just going to talk about it just for a second. And I'm still playing with this because it did start as a model. It was a cognitive ecology model. It was developed in community with community, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't not just my brain, a lot of
Yeah.
brains. And I'm thinking, gosh, model, like what, right? Words, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
stuck on this model is too institutional, right? Model is too
Ooh.
too contained because
Framework?
cognitive ecology, it's not, it's a plural. It's cognitive ecologies. Your ecology
Ooh.
and my ecology might overlap, but they're not the same ecology, right? What I need and what you need is going to be different kinds of things. So how does that, how do we That's what the model does. It's a lens, it's a worldview. It helps you to see
A lens. I like that.
all of those different pieces, which is layered and complex, right? Of your eco psychology, right? How you are in relation to the environments, the institutions, the systems, the people, the culture, the conditioning, all of these things. How are you in relation to that?
Ooh,
And that's a lens that takes time to develop,
yeah. I love
It's
it.
a big change.
So, okay, then let's move to, I mean, I don't know if you've touched on this or not, but I love this concept of ecological belonging. And what are you talking about belonging to what? And as well as defining, AI has been in our sci-fi movies for so long that I think no one stops to think like, well, what is it exactly? And
Yeah.
I'm often reminding people, artificial intelligence, emphasis on artificial,
Yeah.
right? It's not intelligence, it's artificial. It's
Yeah.
just mimicking, and it does some things
Yeah.
faster than we do. But
It's a good,
anyway, so
it's
what do
a
you?
good, it's a pattern making machine. We'll get there. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's talk about ecological because that will like throw us right into the AI
good.
conversation,
Okay.
which, I'm not an expert, but I got some stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But, so for me, ecological belonging isn't about being in nature, which I think is kind of like what people automatically think when they think about like ecopsychology or they think
Yeah.
about anything with the word eco or ecosystems in it, that we're talking about actual nature, which it is, that's a big piece of it. But it's also about remembering that we are nature. Like as a
Mm,
human, we are part of all of this, right?
yeah.
This everything. I am you, you are me, it is us is
Yeah.
we, right? Like,
Yeah.
and that is a big worldview shift, right? Especially for our linear, analytical, Cartesian,
Yeah.
what do I say? Cartesian leftovers.
Yeah.
People probably won't like it when I say that out loud, but
Yeah.
if you want to know about Cartesian leftovers, we can have a whole other conversation. Hit me up on Substack. But um, but and that our psyche expects relational conditions that our society no longer provides, right? And so
Mm,
that is what
okay.
ecological is, that we're creating those conditions. That's what you just talked about, is like learning how to stand up for yourself. I mean, simple things. Stand up for yourself. Know what your boundaries are. Know that no, that is coercive, or no,
Hmm.
that's I you can't treat me that way. Or and the more of us doing that in these spaces, in our families
Yeah.
units, in our community spaces that we're in the systems that we interact with on a daily basis, whether that's our workplace systems or, mental health system, I mean, whatever it might be, but you got to be able to know who you are to do that, right? Like you have to know, and that takes time, and that takes a lens, and that takes
Yeah.
a map of some sort, right? Like people need some sort of map to get them into that realm. And I don't believe that the cognitive ecology is a map. It is a, well, map map is not, it was my map, but it's a map that is uh open by on purpose, right? It was never meant to be a closed theory. So
Mhm.
um so whoever enters, it shapes for you, not
Mm,
I don't, it doesn't tell you who you are as me. It
mhm.
says this person with this neurology
Yeah.
created this. What do you want to bring in here too, right?
Ooh, that's so, it's meandering. That's so feminine. That's so depth psychology, the meandering. Yeah. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's okay. So now that's a lead
yeah,
into AI. So what's interesting to me, I'm older than you. I came of age in the 80s, and I'm now in hindsight, I think the 80s is when a lot of things peaked in a good way.
yeah.
There was a lot of education, innovation taking hold. There was a lot of progress when it came to, I mean, it's just interesting. My clients who, especially women who are in their 30s, the behavior that's accepted in the workplace, it wasn't in the 80s and 90s. Like, yes, there was some bad behavior, but it was not acceptable behavior.
Mhm.
And I'm just constantly like, you're an abusive relationship. at work,
Hmm.
right? And the
Yeah.
one time I said to my client, she was really floored. I said, you're like an abused wife. And she was
Oh,
like, how could I be so stupid? Right. And
yeah.
that really rocked her world. I'm like, you are being abused.
Yeah.
And this particular person, other client, she works in AI. And that space is really misogynist.
Oh, I
Not
can
only
imagine.
misogynist, but it's
Oh,
also they don't treat men well. I mean
they're probably not treating anybody well in
no,
those
it's
environments.
incredible. It's just
So,
incredible to me.
and when we talk about eco-psychology and now we're intersecting AI, this is where the tension rises, right? This is where the paradox
And they
is.
are doing some very evil things in AI. So
Yeah, oh
yeah, so
God.
tell us what
Yeah.
is this space for you?
Well, like so I kind of come at it, through multiple different angles because that's what
Hmm.
I do. But, philosophically speaking, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it's a pattern making machine. It is highly extractive, right? It's built on speed, optimization, prediction, everything that is us, which is what? Completely inequitable, right? Our entire industrial
Oh,
revolution was
oh,
built on a patriarchy, and
yeah.
that is what is coded into AI. Like that's what, okay, so let me calm down. There
Yeah,
are,
you just like freaked me out there.
but, and this is a technology that is already on a runway, right? It is
Yeah.
happening. It's already integrated into our culture, into our systems, into our workplaces, into our daily lives. And so then how do we have a relationship with a technology that is fundamentally just to our ecology?
Yeah.
And so that is the tension that I'm constantly, and we can do things, we can say, hey, you know what? Bad, good, binary thinking, right? Nope. Anybody who touches AI is a bad person, and I'm
Yeah.
it's, I'm going to have
Too
this big
too late.
moral
No,
moral
yeah.
purity thing around it, or we can
Yeah.
have the other side, which I've had these conversations too, where they believe that the technology can actually build its own intelligence. Okay. Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe we should go here because this gets a little weird and dystopian, but it kind of, when I was having this conversation, I was like, gosh, it really sounds like, hear me out, and this is just on kind of a meaning making level. I'm not going to get
Mhm.
historically accurate here, but when our society feels like there is a lack of control, what did men do to create some sense of control and meaning? They created religion, right?
Mhm.
So that is what I'm kind of seeing happening in those pro
Are
AI
you talking
kind
about the
of,
humanists?
yes.
Yes, Dr. Greg Braden does a really good job in his book of here we are in a battle, good versus evil.
Hmm.
And his basic, what he's saying is that these humanists, which maybe weren't always what they have become, see humanity as deeply flawed and
Hmm.
see technology as fixing humans. And Dr. Greg Braden is saying divinity is already encoded in our DNA, and we
Yes,
will lose
yes.
soul and we will lose what it means to be human if we go
And it's
this route.
impossible. Like, so logically, like, let's get into the actual technical aspects of AI. Like, logically, if we go back to everything that we've talked about, as far as consciousness is
Hmm.
concerned and a human being and what intelligence really means, that also includes embodied cognition, right? In
Yeah.
activism. Like, in order to improve an intelligence other than just faster, more optimized pattern making, you have to have relationship.
Yeah.
There has to be stakes at play. I have to know that if I
Mm.
make this decision, I could die. Like a
Hmm.
machine can never have those
Well,
stakes. It
do,
never can.
isn't that like there has to be like agency, free will? Like, isn't that where
Yeah.
free will
Like,
comes in, right?
and these are philosophical like these
Yeah.
are hard problems that we
Yeah.
have not answered as a society, but we're
No.
trying to build a technology off of unfinished business, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
so I love that, and I hope there's a lot of yous out there, which is why I connected you with one of my clients. You guys are
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
love having a chat because she's in it. She is the coder. She is in that space, working it, creating it, and I mean, in a way, I said, in a way, you're doing recognizance work.
Yes. She is.
You're in the
Hmm.
insider.
Oh, I
So,
can't wait to have a conversation with
oh
her.
my gosh. But you know what
Yeah.
my sister did? Um, she noticed that, for example, ChatGPT was rather sexist.
Oh yeah.
So she gave it feedback.
Yeah.
So she actually, so there is an opportunity like to correct it. She's like, ChatGPT, I think you're being sexist. And ChatGPT said, I agree.
Yeah.
And actually, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
because, I suppose if, but the problem is that if people don't correct it and catch it, it's
Yeah.
being enforced, right? Reinforced,
Yeah.
like the feed, if it doesn't get feedback, it's just kind of reinforcing
Yeah.
whatever. So,
Well, and that's,
oh,
when we get to the practical, that's the practical pieces of it where we need to be ahead of the evolution, right? Like
yeah,
we should be teaching our young adults and our children how to ethically use a product like this, right? We should be teaching critical thinking skills. We should be teaching, red flags in conversation. I mean, like there's so much that could where the work and the effort and the attention could be put towards, but so much of it is put towards just
consumerism.
yeah, just it's
To
like
your knowledge, I laugh at what you're saying because that's not happening here, but to your knowledge, are there other countries that are doing better when it comes to that?
You mean like
For
the
for
like
example, my understanding is in many European countries, media literacy is taught
oh
in a way that
yeah.
it's not taught here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think for sure. I mean not off the top of my head, but he I mean most of our Scandinavian brothers and sisters
Yeah.
seem to have a little
They're way ahead.
a little ahead of us there. Um, but there's obviously I think some political um
Obst
reasons for
obstacles.
why we are behind, but we can catch up. And see, this is the
Yeah.
thing, part about it too, is like that's where we go, what, well, wait a second. AI has some capabilities to help us maybe make
Mhm.
some of this change happen a little, that optimization, that speed, make it a little faster, as long as we have the right minds on the work.
Right.
And the ones that are thinking through ecological lenses, the ones that have the ethical training in uh, technological evolution and media literacy and all of these kinds of things. These are the people that are coming out of my program. This is transformative social
Oh,
change.
that's
These are the
exciting.
people that are being trained on this stuff, like that have these new kind of more uh systemic, right,
Mhm.
worldviews. And some of us more naturally just do that, like
Yeah.
pattern making brains.
Yep.
Autistic people tend, not all, but tend to have with the right tools and with the right guidance, can tend to have pretty strong systems thinking. Like my autistic experience, I'm a Gestalt language processor, which means that I actually learned language differently than the average population. There's a lot of people, I think it's like 50% of us are Gestalt language processors, but we won't go there yet. But it's a backwards cognition. You learn the whole before the parts. That's system
Mm.
thinking. And so, yeah,
Oh, I think that's
yeah,
probably me.
yeah, it's probably,
I immediately go to the whole. I
yeah,
immediately go to the I call it the archetypal realm.
yeah.
You're down here and I'm like, yeah, but
No, but this,
right,
but this,
exactly.
you see the whole first, and then you go, oh, what does this constellation mean?
Well,
You
I'll
know?
share this is a funny story, but it illustrates the point. Back when I was married to my husband and we were having just a conversation, and I think this was probably in the early 2000s, and there was a Prozac epidemic,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So, okay.
Hmm.
So just a random conversation, and I'm like, gosh, what does that say about people? Like, this is a concern. And my former husband says, well, it's good for the economy. And he just
Yeah.
was so like matter of fact. And I said,
Hmm.
huh. To me, that was a horrifying statement. I said, well, what is the purpose of an economy? And he was like, you're exhausting.
Yeah.
But literally, like, I was like, okay, so just because, so the economy is the lens.
Hmm.
No, no, no. Justice is the lens, should be the lens, right?
Should be the
But
lens.
it's an example of how I thought,
Hmm.
versus somebody else who wouldn't even question. It's just
Yeah.
here's this number and it's good when it goes up.
Hmm.
But what is the meaning of that number? Is it just? Is it unjust? Is it whatever?
Hmm.
So,
Like what's the purpose behind it, right? Like it's
right.
my partner is similar in that aspect, though I think. He doesn't have a choice but to grow, knowing me,
Yeah, yeah.
and me
He
grow
loves
knowing
you
him.
so much, he's going to allow you to help expand his awareness.
Yeah, but it goes both ways. It's a reciprocal dynamic. I learn a lot from him as well. Um, but he was a doctor. There's a type of training that is done to
Yeah,
you as a
yeah,
doctor. It's reductionism. It's
right.
meant to be that way. It's getting down to the nitty-gritty of the parts, and that type of thinking, when you're trained in it, that intensely. I mean, training to become a doctor in the 80s and
Yeah,
90s, I mean, it's probably now even is abusive. I mean,
yeah,
you are it is beat into you to think
right.
this way. And so yeah, it's fascinating watching him open the lens a little, well, what did you look at it through that one? Like
Oh,
what if we see it this direction,
well, it also makes
And
sense the two of you are together.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Did we touch on this? Your paradox that you highlight, our longing for ecological belonging versus how technology is really accelerating the disconnection, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about Earth, and I love how you say self and Earth. So I say, of course, this is devious. This is a sinister choice, right? And right now, as patriarchal systems of capitalism, for example, are clinging to survival. I mean,
Hmm.
but they're clinging to survival is an indication that we're evolving out of it. But
Yeah.
it's very, anxiety. It's very stressful right now. So, maybe you could talk a little bit about that paradox.
Yeah. I mean, I think um
And how do we, I don't know, resolve you have a thought about it. You say it's not the answer, but
yeah.
you have like, here,
Paradox. So it's kind of hard to come into this frame because paradox is a skill, like being able to hold two truths at once, right? And
oh,
hold
Jung's
that tension.
transcendent third.
Yes.
Oh,
Like holding it long enough, the tension long enough to see what emerges from that. And I think that is the sign of our times.
yeah.
And those who are
Hmm.
going to come through this big paradigm shift in society and all of our systems are collapsing and changing and moving in different directions are going to be the ones that can hold that
Yeah.
in all different levels, on the micro level, in your own mind. I mean, you have to, and that's where you learn it, right? You'll be able to
Yeah.
we can get to IFS, internal family systems, and all this stuff, but that's where you learn to hold paradoxes. You learn to hold it in yourself. And when you learn to hold it in yourself, it's easier to hold it outside yourself. Um, and that's a lot of what we're seeing. I mean, the big one is the AI versus extraction kind of paradox, but we're also seeing these just on so many different levels, like in disability studies and whatnot,
Mm.
as um, some of our systems and our support structures are being taken from disabled people, from other marginalized people. It's holding that paradox of like, okay, but there is something new that can come from this, right?
Mhm.
Um, and not clinging to
Yeah.
something that wasn't working to begin with, right?
Right.
That's the tough one, is clinging to systems that were only working for select few anyways,
Yeah.
and then, but recognizing that there's going to be a transition period there. Transitions are hard for autistic people in general. So I
Yeah.
had to learn a way to hold that tension, and that's what
Right.
it was. And
Well, I
uh,
finally heard somebody, because I don't know, probably like you, because we see patterns, like none of what's happening is a surprise to me. Like I can go back and go, yep, this started then when that person
yeah,
said that, and then that came, I could just see that. But I finally heard like a very mainstream person, Heather Cox Richardson, maybe you know who she is. She's a
uh-huh,
historian, she's fantastic. And she said it. She's like, we ain't going back to what we had. It might not even be called democracy.
yeah,
We're just not. And so in my intro, this is what I said is that, the dismantling causes a lot of anxiety because we don't know what it's going to become. But there's a lot of people like you and I who are in the space of transition and can see what's emerging, or we're at
mhm,
least feel stable enough to say what is emerging.
Hmm.
right? And then form communities and think about the thinkers, the philosophers, the artists. Like what's
Hmm.
happening is that it's in the collective unconscious and it's so ready to be like bursting
Yes.
out. Just like in the 80s. So in the 80s, what happened in the 80s? Something bursts out of the collective unconscious having to do with women. What do we think about women and what is the feminine and, Thelma and Louise and Violence Against Women Act and consciousness raising about what is right and what is wrong and all of that. That, like, there were so many things that came together and it was like, boosh, like it all came out. And
Hmm.
it almost was good that it came that way because people had to adapt.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. The place of transition can be a hard place to be, which is why a framework or a lens or a worldview is very useful.
Hmm.
So, your worldview or your model emerged through community and then sharing that model with others.
Hmm.
And that could be really helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah, I really do hope so. And the so much of the work that I was doing was because of being misfit, right? Because
Yeah.
I didn't belong,
Right.
because I was kicked out or I was rejected or I was excluded. And so
Yeah.
it was so important to me that it wasn't, I love some of our theorists from throughout history. Ken Wilber did some amazing work.
Mhm.
And there's there was a and maybe this is patriarchal, right? There was this like definitive, like,
Yeah.
I have found the next, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, I found a way
Yeah.
for you to find that for yourself,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
You sound like the last person I interviewed. I said I haven't been inspired to interview anybody in so long, but since him, and he's a philosopher, and oh my, I mean, he is, and his philosophy is communicated through words, but through art. And what he's attempting to do is create a framework for people to explore their own sort of worldviews. Or he's like, there's so many worldviews. And so at this point, there's like so many choices that could be paralyzing and nobody picks any worldviews, right?
Mhm.
And so I found that to be really interesting. And it's almost like you have the same sort of feel where you're like, no, this isn't the worldview. This is a worldview that you might find useful as a way to look at what's happening through it so you can find meaning, right? Meaning
Exactly.
making for yourself
Yeah. And we
and your
as
place in the
humans,
world.
yeah, you know this as a depth psychologist, the meaning making aspect of it is huge, and we just don't, that's not built into our society anymore. There is no meaning making. It's all commodification. It's all capitalism, right? Like,
They tell you what to think. They tell you how to feel. They
yes.
say you can't
Yeah.
be happy, you need this.
Yeah. You should
And then
believe
that's not good enough.
if you believe if you want this, you should be on the left. If you want this, you should be on, like, all of this stuff. And this is
Yeah.
all collapsing. And I like
Yes, it
like
is.
you, it's like I felt this weave. I felt the pattern for a very long time. So none
Yep.
of it really, like, I don't go, oh my gosh. I'm just like, oh
Right.
yeah.
That
There,
makes
yep.
sense.
Yep. Okay. And and then, the other piece of that too that you said, like, there's a lot of us doing this work. It's just this the system that promotes, right?
Yeah.
Social media and all. I mean, I'm sure you run into this. I run into this. Like, why can't I get out there? Why does that
Yeah.
get out there?
It's
Like,
it's true, man. I'm trying to like build my YouTube channel and yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. Now
But
I
there are
lost
a
it.
lot of us. And we're
I lost
starting to, this is showing us that is that we
Oh,
are starting to interweave.
this is what I was going to say is it's probably good that there's not a lot of attention on people like us because
Yeah.
we'd be like banned, right? So, Carl Jung, who said, this is my favorite quote of his, and it's not these words, but, the fate of humanity depends upon the self-reflecting individual that can resist the mass mindedness, the easy answers. And so what happens, what I tell my clients, I guess that's my important work is that I'm helping them hold the tension between things and reconcile things. And then they go out into the world and they're not triggered anymore. I think this is the age of people who get triggered. Like, I've watched you over the last couple of years that you've got to get to the root of that so that you
Hmm.
can show up and be more strategic and effective in the collective, right? So
Yeah,
you had to go through that. And
I
so,
have to.
all these people, millions of people are doing this kind of work so that they can show up in the face of like the ridiculous nature of those people, right? And be like, huh, I love you. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I'm not triggered by you.
Exactly.
I feel, oh, honey, do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, honey,
Just,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Just like that's just you're just being human and that's okay. That
Yeah.
doesn't,
So all
your
those,
humanness is not going to activate me,
yeah. So look at you. You're like, boom, you're sticking your head up there. I'm sticking my head up there. All my clients. And eventually what happens then is what happened in the 80s, where it does coalesce into bigger ideas and into the systems. But right now it's just sort of happening beneath the surface. So okay, la, 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 oh, I was reading when you're talking about the difference of what happens when someone different is in the wrong environment versus the right environment. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but uh
Yeah.
and
Ugh.
okay, what this was making me think about. So you talk first, but it was making me reflect on my own life because
Hmm.
I don't have any diagnosis of anything. I just consider myself like a weirdo, a nerd. I'm awkward. I have had experiences that were not very good experiences, and I suffered, and then I left, and I think the one thing that probably saved me was I have an entrepreneurial spirit. So I
Hmm.
like creating my own way. My mother did say, well, she did kind of, comment that I was never quite good enough. She did say I could do anything. And I don't have a tolerance for not being happy or fulfilled or having meaning. And so when I suffered enough in a job, I would leave. And then I would feel bad about why they didn't like me. But eventually that passed
Hmm.
because then I was like, oh, but I want to go here now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of other people who have suffered it worse than I suffered. And I don't know why a combination of my traits, my psychological type, my strengths allowed me to just always create my
Hmm.
own thing so that I didn't have to suffer for too long at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You could talk
Yeah.
about,
Well,
this
I'm
wrong
just
right
going to bring up your
environment.
book for a quick second
Oh, thank
because
you.
um no, I just finished what was the chapter? It was good. A dream about crumbling teeth. Okay,
Oh,
and so at the end of this chapter you talk about how um you and your ex-husband were kind of at a crossroads. You were like, "Hey, you got a thing and I want to help you with that thing and we're going to make this thing a thing together." And then he
oh
was
yeah.
like, I'm trying, I don't want to give the book away,
No,
But
well, yeah, it's about alcoholism. Like,
yeah.
okay, so you're an alcoholic. Let's do this thing.
Right? Well, so here's the thing is like, I struggled with alcohol for a period of time. It was a coping strategy gone awry,
Yeah,
and it is
yeah,
what it is. A lot of it, I think, was due to being autistic in a world and not like
yeah,
the suffering that I experienced was really I was unknown to me until
yeah.
you know and then but so I'm reading that and I'm going, dude, I want to be on your team. Like I was ready to join the team and I'm going, that is just it is a different personality.
Yeah.
Like there's something that just about people, certain people just bounce back. We don't get a victim mentality. We don't, or if we do, it's short-lived. I was talking about this with my therapist today, and I've talked about this with my friend. She's a gifted psychologist. She's gifted psychologist, but she also studies giftedness, and she calls it hyper neuroplasticity. It's when, yeah,
Ooh,
bad things can and do often happen to our kind of human,
yeah,
and sometimes they're really bad, shitty, but
yeah.
we tend to just like, boom, okay, moving on. And that is unique. That is unique. And I don't know why. I'm the same way. I'm just like, oh, that
It's
sucked.
like
And
my intellect gets on fire, actually. Maybe that's what it is. It's like, oh, I'm like, at the same time, there's emotions. There's also like, this also is my sex organ, is my intellect. I'm
uh-huh.
like, what do we do about this? This
Hmm.
is like a new problem. This is like a new Indiana Jones adventure. Come on, people write books about overcoming this. I want to be
Yeah.
on Oprah with you.
I know it was, and that's like so. Side note too, I was so that whole story that, and then the end of it. My relationship with my ex ended in a pretty, I wish it was that smooth. I'll just say
Yeah.
that, but not that it was smooth for you, but there was pretty, it was
Yeah.
a pretty, that was probably the height of my positive disintegration was that
Yeah.
relationship. And when it ended for us, it was a similar conversation where I was like, I want more. I want to grow.
Yeah.
I want to keep doing this
Yeah.
life thing and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And his response to that was, I'm good. I like it just like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, we are not compatible then, like at all,
Yeah.
beyond all the other stuff that we went through. Like, we're
Yeah.
just, this is done,
Yeah.
right?
And I remember, I also write later on, I remember realizing that, I know I broke his heart, but I also released him from my
Mhm.
neediness to I agree. Like I was intense to live with. I was difficult to live with, but I also think I'm really cool. So, so that we released each other, so I'm glad there's this concept of conscious uncoupling, which he did not want to uncouple, but that we don't have to, I don't know, we don't have to stay in the we don't have to judge it. We could just be like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was a part of my life. So,
Yeah. That's kind of, I think, where I'm at, and it
yeah.
took a while to get here,
Yeah.
but I'm at that point now. I've reconnected with my ex and, we have a cordial, co-parenting. Our kids are adults, so it's,
Yeah.
it is what it is, but we both are really just at that point, like, wow, like it's
Yeah,
okay to not,
that happened, huh? We could
yeah,
just look at it
yeah,
now.
yeah, we can just kind of go, yeah. And
Well,
there's some
that's
sadness and there's, things and then there's
oh,
so much, when you
and
get to
there's
this point too, you also see the positives in a different light, like,
yes.
oh, like those come
Yeah.
back because you're not flooded with the negative and
Right. Well, you're allowed to appreciate the positive because
Mhm.
for a long time I couldn't appreciate the positive because I was afraid I'd change my mind
Oh yeah, there's
and
that
I'd
too.
stay. So
Yes.
I had to
Yeah.
anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess my last question is I love how you point out the clash between ecological intelligence and industrial expectation. And maybe we touched on this already, but oh, we did because I this is when I brought up the story about the Prozac or the Prozac being
Yeah.
a Prozac epidemic being good for the economy. But I guess that's another I mean, I don't know.
Well,
Just, maybe whatever you have to say about this sense
I
of
would say
ecological intelligence. Yeah.
ecological intelligence moves at the pace of a relationship or any
Oh.
relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Industrial intelligence moves at the pace of extraction. And,
Oh.
there's that is the paradigm shift, really, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everything else is going to happen too, but that is the big one is like industrialization has run its course. The earth is
Yeah.
telling us so if we
Right.
listen, right?
Right.
She is saying, guys, it's time to do something different. And we are part of her, right? We
Yeah.
are nature. And so
Yeah.
we have to listen. And I believe it is the neurodivergent people who we have this different type of, I can't give you an empirical study of how I know this. I just know it.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of me's know it. You know it. And
Absolutely.
we're all saying it and we're saying it. And it's going to be okay. Transitions are hard but we're gonna get there and we're gonna move through this and my grandkids are gonna live in a different kind of world that's a little softer
Yeah.
that moves at the pace of relationship.
Yeah. I love it. Well, okay. I think we gave people a good introduction to these concepts. Like what do you want to add? Is there something that we didn't talk about? Do you have I don't know, you got a vision for yourself, is this part of your PhD program or you
So the cognitive ecology model was my master's
got it. Okay.
thesis. Yes. So, but it is being pulled in and of course
Mm,
expanded and developed and
yeah.
going to become more through my dissertation process.
Okay.
The dissertation process is I'm doing grounded theory, which is for anybody out there who doesn't know about this shit. It's cool. It's really good research that actually brings the community into the process and the
Ooh.
people create the theory. The people
Ooh.
create the theory,
Ooh.
not theorists from the outside in, it's from the inside out. And so, like I do, my methodology is going to be very complex, but also very effective to hold the
Is
relationship.
is part of it autoethnography?
Yes, I used a lot of autoethnography in my master's thesis.
Okay.
That's kind of, I mean, that's what I used to build the model. I was like, I went through I did a historiography and autoethnography of my
Okay.
entire life through multiple different lenses, and then I asked my community, and I said, that makes sense to you? You know, does that feel right? And I got a lot, yeah, and yes, ands, lots of yes, ands, and then the model kind of kept going.
You're
And
like,
so
I'm not the only weirdo.
yeah, I'm not the only one. I know. That's what I found. Actually, there's like 2,000 of us on Substack. So,
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
I gotta follow
yeah.
you there.
So that feels pretty. Anytime I start to feel a little bit like the outsider again, or feel a little like
Mhm.
nobody gets me,
Well,
which I,
here's the paradox of being a misfit and an outsider. We have a role to play. So
yeah,
my sister is likes being she's an HR, likes being like a change agent, like a
yeah,
disruptor, right? But she's also very sensitive and she, likes external validation. So those two things, I'm like, sister, you want to go in there and change things. You really want people to be happy about everything you're doing.
yeah,
So that's the thing is like, we need to feel we belong enough.
yeah,
Even if we don't really need to be liked by a lot of people, we are disruptors.
yeah.
So yeah,
And for anybody out there who's doing that disrupting on whatever level you're doing it at, if you're doing it in your at your gym or at your workplace or whatever wherever you're doing it, um, your cognitive ecology is beyond that, right? So if you can't get that validation and those needs met in the place where you're doing the disrupting, which is common, right?
yeah,
That's where I
yeah,
left the last job, then you got to find it elsewhere. And it's
yeah.
out there, right? We're here. We're
Yes.
here. There's communities that are popping up everywhere. I mean, we did it. The Compassion Collective was an experiment,
Yeah.
and it works. I mean, it
Yeah.
works for us that are in the community, right? We're
Right.
there for each other, our little misfit brains. So we know that we're not actually alone
Yeah.
when
And
those
I'm going to share that link. So, and whatever links you want me to share. So the last thing would be like, what do you want from people? How can they help you and support you? And, where can people go to find, I
Mhm.
mean, they can follow you on Substack. So
Yes.
and
Follow
I'll
me on
include those
Substack
links. Hmm.
is like the best place. I do
Is it
some
just your name, Sher Griffin?
Sher Griffin at Substack.
Okay.
Yes. Um, I think you can also type in the cognitive ecologist and you can find
Oh,
me that way.
ooh, okay.
Um, but that's a great place. You kind of become part of my community if you become part of Substack. And I have a book coming out soon, so that's cool too. Yeah.
Okay. So do
So
you have a list like people can subscribe, or if they just
yeah.
follow you on Substack, they'll know or
So yeah, if they subscribe on the way Substack works, if you subscribe, you can do a free subscription,
Mhm.
and a good 50% of my content is free.
Okay.
Some of the deeper work that I do, especially the deep research and
Yeah.
literature review stuff, is behind
Yeah.
paywalls. But I also don't, if you can't afford, you just let me know. Let me
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of just where I communicate other things as well. So if
Okay.
when the book starts popping, hopefully first of the year-ish, it looks like we're getting there. It's called Cognitive Ecology, Mapping Your Mind for Self-Understanding. So it takes you through my process in depth, and it is accessible, written in language that everyday humans, no matter
Oh
what
my.
background you're from, can understand.
And you have a
And
publisher?
yeah, he's an amazing human. And I will be actually, uh, oh yeah, well, I don't know. I've got more stuff coming, but it all comes up on Substack,
Okay.
and we're just part of the weave, right? It's all just
Yeah.
part of the weave, and I have lots of people in my community doing really cool things, so I try and promote their work as well.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We did this pretty quickly. I was just like, what is this? 3 essays? What? We got to talk about this. And I said in my
I'm so glad
intro,
you did. For me,
yeah.
like the way I learn, in academia
Mhm.
is I need to kind of like process through it a few
Yes.
times to really get it, to really for it to hit
Same.
home, right? So this is
Same.
good for me too, just
Yeah.
to talk about it. So
Absolutely. Whenever I was interviewed the other day and I was listening to it and I'm like, Man, that sounds damn good. But like I am like reinforcing my understanding because if you just keep it to yourself, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like you're right. You just it gets reinforced. You learn by teaching, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
there's that old saying. So
Yeah, that's
thank
true.
you
That is very true.
so much.
Thank
And I'll just
you.
do my little outro. Listeners, viewers, thank you so much for spending time with Sher Griffin and me. And I mean, this was very depth oriented. So I hope you're excited about what you learned and go see where you can see what you couldn't see before, which is what I do as a depth psychologist. So, and until next time.